he might be beyond that as well, but he's described himself as this, so we take this much in the equation, that's it. We don't know what else he is, he has defined himself as this.
He has no entropy.
Yeah. So tell me when you want to switch.
Okay, so the finite speed of light was measured in here. The finite speed of light was measured in 1676 by Ole Romer. So Ole Romer was the first to calculate the Allah, in your opinion. Is that correct? Ole Romer, he measured the...
does it actually behave differently in different mediums, the light?
I don't think so. But he measured...
what does that mean? You don't think so? Actually, this thing is that we are talking about this world and its boundaries. So
well, light bends around mass, I know that.
Yeah. So the thing is that it's coming from outside the universe. You never know if you cannot say that this is Allah.
I don't know, but just possibly
yes.
This could be the experimental measurement of the energy of Allah. Is that right?
No, it's ask Dr. Baig, he is the scientist. But what I'm saying is, from the logical point of view, if something is coming out from outside the universe into the universe, which we know, so it should actually react differently. Because light, when it actually enters another medium, it has to actually behave differently. It does.
Yeah. Well, nobody knows what's before the Big Bang. So right now we're speaking in hypotheses.
Yeah, so
there's nothing measuring.
Yeah.
So you're speaking in hypothesis. You're speaking in hypothesis, but we do know that the universe is expanding. So we can measure far back, and there's 3 or 4 different data that suggests that it's universe expanding. There was a bang. So we've got 3, but other than that, you're saying that before this was the infinite energy of Allah. Those are conjectures.
But you see, the recent finding about the diminishing of light in vacuum measured recently, and that says that Einstein is right. That is near enough. They say that it goes back to 13.2 billion years. Light may have traveled like that.
All right, let's pause on that paper for a minute. Because like you said, we want to keep this kind of upbeat for the young people. We want to make it sure it's relevant. So we're looking at a couple more of these dialogues.
We were actually just looking to discuss it with you, that's it.
Yeah.
And regarding the paper, we might actually go and revise it a bit based
What
on
paper?
the paper Dr. Baig wrote.
I do not agree with you.
2014, 2019, 5 years ago. 5 years ago.
The religious conflict, the reason being chemistry and physics do not recognize the word life. And now you don't have.
That's right. That's Charles Sherrington's statement. We might as well take a look at this. Charles Sherrington said this. He's right. That's not my quote. That's his quote. And he says, chemistry and physics do not recognize the word life, but it's supposed that your version of chemistry and physics does. Let's see what Charles Sherrington says here. So he gave this whole thing called the Gifford Lectures.
Idiot, doesn't it? If he does not recognize the existence of God, then I think you do not recognize him.
सही है
I can go to that extent.
We're gonna have to put a sheet to cover his face up then while he's up here.
Therefore, you solved my problem. I don't recognize you.
We'll get him out of the way there. We don't need this guy there anymore. He doesn't exist anymore. Don't worry.
Charles Sherrington's who?
Let me
We're
separate
here.
from the scene.
Both the scientific and everyday elbow are one and the same system of electrical charges. It is no use of asking physics and chemistry whether it is live. They do not understand the word. And he says, when physics and chemistry have entered up on their description of the perceptual, life disappears from the scene. Consequently, death. Both are anthropisms. So when you say you die,
He's only saying that he does not recognize physics and chemistry have entered into the regard. I say physics and chemistry are both quantification of certain observations. Their quantification of observation.
yeah, well,
Boyle's law, it's observation. PV is equal to RT.
so you have quantified observation of life.
That this is, if he recognizes this, then he has to recognize physics and chemistry.
Yeah.
And if physics and chemistry has described a certain idea, that was an idea. If physics and chemistry quantify an idea, in that case this whole world is quantified by Allah. क्यों भाई सही है?
So where was the discussion the most intensified? This one.
It got a little later toward the end. But right now we're grand rewrite edition. We talked about that.
Okay.
I'll just skip over life because that takes a lot of arguing. It's something you have to think about on your own. Myself, I've gone past it. It doesn't bother me anymore.
Dead molecules is entropy. Living molecule is
That molecule is what?
Infinite plus entropy. And this is all entropy.
The living molecule is what?
Living molecule is infinite. Finite energy.
Infinite.
Finite energy plus entropy.
Wait, infinite or finite?
Finite.
Finite.
Living is finite.
Finite plus entropy.
Yeah.
And what is that molecule?
That molecule is no entropy or entropy.
Okay.
So it effectively means that this equation remains the same.
The
values change.
The E has been converted into mass, and the mass has been converted into photons. And the photons are there in the black hole. And the black hole is expanding because the entropy of the galaxy and every other galaxy has a different...
This kind of got in a heated problem right here. Now, Briggs says that what's moral is defined by what's in the Quran. Now, Goethe, on the other hand, who did the same work as you, he said we can't keep going to the Bible anymore. Now we have to turn to the moral symbols in natural sciences. That is the affinities and the free energies of physical chemistry to find our new guiding principles for future religion in order to foundationally answer legal questions such as, should the woman who kills her newborn child suffer the death penalty? That's one of his law degree theses when he tried to get into law school at number 55. So these were problems that people couldn't understand whether this should or shouldn't occur in Germany in 1772. So, but now when we started getting into this is where we start a little heated up a little bit. So
The true prophet now is the
not
fictional character of
is not-
someone named Muhammad. Okay, descendant from the Egyptian aggregate god Abraham. But the prophets of the physico-chemical sciences who are able to use the prediction methods of physical chemistry to better foresee and lay down new guiding principles for each respective future civilizations.
Here, I'll show you what I mean by this, because We call these guys,
The prophets of science.
yeah,
See,
the
see.
new prophets are here.
It seems to me that he's agreeing with me.
This is the new prophets right here. This is Gilbert Lewis. He's the one who, when you, in your book, when you're using the delta F symbol, this comes from him. He's the one who formulated those equations you use. The delta G equals delta H minus T delta S, that comes from his work. He's the new prophet. And you can use this to predict things. So, right here, each age has its own prophets, men who bring to it distinctive messages and present them in such effective form as to sway the currents of contemporary thought. And
That's what I am saying in so many words, that all religions have a common theme. This is good and this is bad. We refrain from bad. But be sure, along with man, along with life, and along with every living creature, also created a devil.
created what?
A devil. Devil
Devil.
has been created along with man.
I don't believe in devil. Devil comes from.
You may not believe it, but that's your problem.
Yeah, and how you put it, that's for you to figure out.
You may not believe in the devil, you may not believe in Allah, but that's your problem. Someone not problem.
Well, we've all got our own problems, that's for sure. We all have problems.
The net result is that Satan is Satan is neither with you, not with me.
Yeah.
Satan is with everybody. Those negative. So every religion says, beware of the Satan.
You're funny.
We call it Satan. Some other people will say, no, this is Raman. This
Yeah.
is something else.
What was the against the wrong?
Avesta,
It was Ammon or
Avesta and
something, right?
those Zoroastrians, from where the Hindus have got their Veda.
Everybody laughs in the room.
If you ask me, if somebody says that Quran is a rewrite
Set.
of a certain Egyptian manuscript, then the Hindus, their Veda
This
is
is
a
the-
rewrite of the Zoroastrian.
Yeah.
You ever seen this before? Set?
No, I've actually worked on that before.
Set? you call him, say, Satan in the Quran. His original devil is this, and it's Horus's brother. And Set kills his brother, and that got rewritten into the Hyksos dynasty of Set Baal, and then Set Aman in the 17th dynasty, and finally say Satan, devil, or Diablo in the Flavian dynasty. So this is
You see, they are fixing. This
Yeah.
is all entropy. You describe it in pictures. You are fixing the whole thing, and that is entropy. So we are supposed to be refraining from drawing pictures. That's what I was trying to warn you about the cartoons. You cannot go too far in those cartoons.
Okay, so Shaitan is from, in your version, Satan is from Set,
Yeah.
and Adam is from Atom.
Atom.
Okay.
Adam is from Atom.
And Eve is from Isis.
Eve is
Isis.
no.
Satan was created much before Adam.
Eve is
The Satan has to be with every living creature. The negative force has to
I'm
be.
just asking him to map his.
it's either spirit that was put into the clay, or it's. I'm pretty sure Eve wasn't.
What the Naphtali.
Eve has a little bit of some of her characteristics were adopted from the Greek story of Pandora, the Greek version. So things like the eating of the apple and the snake in the garden, that comes from the story of Pandora, and opening up the Pandora's box is equivalent to eating from the tree of knowledge. So when the Jews wrote the story of Eve, and Jews were Egyptians too. So for example, this is something.
That's already. Were the Jews Egyptian?
No, you're told the story that they just were Jews,
Yeah, absolutely.
Egyptians that moved up. But this is what they really were. See, when we read modern names, we don't know that. For example, you think Abraham was one name, but when they used to write Egyptian names, they would write these as three-part names. It's like a.
Abraham.
Yeah, there was the compartmentalization of names.
Yes.
So the Israelites weren't actually Jewish at all, but they were a syncretism of three different religions. They were kind of like a sect that moved out of Egypt, and they kind of formed their own religion out of three different gods. So
is that historically correct?
That's pretty much correct. So Ra is the same part as that's in Abraham. Ra, the sun god. El is a Canaanite mountain god, and there's rendered as Lord in the Old Testament. And then Isis stands for El. So the Israelites are the followers of the god Isis, Ra, and El. So it's kind of like a new religion. So you can see.
Okay, and what about if I tell you that in Arabic, Israel is a proper word? So is it going to make them Arabic?
I don't know. I'd have to think about that. But this is pretty much.
I'm just challenging the thought process. I'm just trying to understand.
Okay, this quote here gives you an example. This was done by Samuel Dunlop. He said the way how this worked was the Egyptians had thousands of gods, and this was called polytheism. It got to the point where some of these powers, these gods, were getting weakened, and so people had different gods for each city. So they needed to reduce all these numbers of gods. So one of the first techniques they did is what's called the sun god to prophet rescript. So they turned the sun gods to the patriarchs.
Patriarchs.
Yeah. So he says in this way, the Hebrews turned the sun gods to the patriarchs. Adam, Abraham, Israel were names of Saturn. It sounds a little kooky, but once you read into this, it's a lot of truth what he's saying here. So Adam was originally the land mount. Ra was the sun. So they turned the land mount into a prophet. They turned the sun into a prophet. They turned, and Israel became kind of the name of the followers of this new religion, the Israelites. So here it says Israel, all three syllables, each of a different ancient god. And this is from 1910. So this is nothing I'm making up right here.
No. I'm not saying.
Yeah.
Libb, please don't take me wrong.
No, this is for people here on the camera, not just you.
No, yeah.
Yeah.
So when I say that Israel is a proper word in both Hebrew and in Arabic, I'm saying that it was a word in Canaanite language, this Suryani. And Israel meant Il is, Il, it's a history. This Gabriel.
Mm-hmm.
Gabriel means.
So here's Eve. So Eve wasn't, as far as I know, Eve wasn't really part of the original. Because when Adam was the original Egyptian myth, there was no woman and man.
Yeah.
It was
only gods. And there couldn't be any woman god. Yes.
Well, not exactly. Let me just show you it's called the. this right here is pretty much where the core of the whole thing came from, all the root. Eve is not exactly the whole thing, but so originally there was the land mound. This came up. So originally the what's it called, the Nile River flood cosmology. Everything was in a flood, based on this annual 150. It occurred every year for thousands and thousands, 10,000 years. This went back. This didn't happen in Sumeria. It always happened in Egypt, and the reason is that the snow in the Ethiopian mountains would melt at a certain around December, and that would cause they would cause the Nile to flood. And then after the flood receded, it left behind this black soot, which on the banks of the Nile was very fertile, could grow crops. And they called this black part the Chem, and they called the Egyptians the Chemites, and that's also the root word of chemistry, because they called the black chemistry was called by the Middle East, the Arabics, alchemy.
Alchemy.
So alchemy means
Alchemia.
the Chem, the black art.
Alchemia.
Yeah, so Chem is actually this K-E-M-E, this black soil that was left on the bank of the Nile. And it's also the root of Abraham. This Ham is pronounced Chem. So it's Ra born out of the land, Father Ra born out of the earth of the land. So Ham and chemistry both have the same root. So originally we had the flood, then the land mound run out, which was either the god Atum or a man standing on the top of the thing. And so then Atum split off, so there was no Eve right here. But he self-generated it, kind of the male-female. Shu is air and Tefnut is moisture, and there's earth and Jeb. And then, so this is the first part of creation, which variant of it you'll see in the original, in the Quran, but in the Old Testament. So Joshua, is Joshua in Joseph is in the Quran?
Joseph is.
So Joseph.
Yusuf.
Yusuf. Oh yeah, Yusuf. So Yusuf is a rescript of Jo means God Jeb, or God Seb. So this was a rewrite of God Jeb, it became Joseph. And I don't know if Joshua is in the Quran, but it became God Shu, was Joshua.
Joshua is Yusha.
उससे पहले के है ना
नहीं हजरत
इनसे पहले के हुए
after Moses Joshua was after Moses
हजरत यूसुफ से पहले
हजरत
ये तो
Yusuf in the periodic arrangement, Abraham's son was Jacob, Jacob's son was Joseph, and Joseph had a full progeny, and these people were Levites, and then they in the Levites was born Moses. Moses had two followers. One of them was Joshua.
Joseph is Yusuf.
Yeah.
Here they are here. Joseph, this is God Shu, this is God Jeb, became Yusuf. God Shu, I don't know if he's in. I don't have his name, but
Yusha, as he's called in Arabic, and you won't find him in Quran. But
he's there.
Yeah, his name in our side of the world is Yusha.
If you want to, when I'm gone, if you want to go back and add his name in this table,
I'm going to help you a lot in this. Actually, this is
but just leave note in when you do it.
Yes, absolutely.
So,
and one more thing. You haven't added a lot of things from the Zoroastrian religion. They had a plethora of people they called angels, and those angels.
You're talking about Persian, right?
Yes.
It's right here.
Yeah, and there's a lot of missing.
Some of it because I can only research on so much at a time, but I have Zoroaster and
Zoroaster and Mithra.
This one is important for the Zoroaster.
You like Zoroaster?
Here comes Zoroaster, and here is
Brahma.
they have grown together.
Zoroaster and
For some
Brahma.
time between Iran,
So here you can see.
the desert area of Iran,
Mhm.
Iran and Balochistan, and the present Pakistan. They were the abusing ground of the Zoroaster and the Aryans who had migrated. The Aryans had they were aliens all the way. The Hindus, they are aliens.
Hindus are aliens?
Aliens too, yeah. The Hinduism
So-
or whatever the Vedas say, that brewed in the area that is now West Pakistan, that is now Pakistan. There was serious drought and too much of rainfall at the same time, alternating. So these people, those who were developing the Veda with the Zoroastrians, they had to migrate.
Uh-huh.
And they went along the Himalayas towards Nepal. And that's why the Buddhism and other Jainism, they all grew here.
You see the quote about the aluminum, here's the aluminum quote right here.
You read
This.
What?
The aluminum.
Ah, yes.
When we were arguing, I said,
Yeah.
I said, here's the quote from the Quran.
Mhm.
Human being were formed of clay and breathed spirit into him. And
Created a
then
human being out of clay.
I said,
The process of creation is a synthesis.
I don't know, you're reading it, I read the quote directly.
Yeah.
I formed him from sticky clay and I breathed
Yeah.
breath in him. So this quote directly means that I formed him from something that's poisonous. So you have to
All right, maybe,
Could
maybe.
be.
But human beings have iron, and it's not a part of.
we're still arguing about recreation method. We already talked on
Yeah,
that.
you'd like to hear about this once you're done with this. So
So yeah, I use the word good, you're doing good here, look at this. This is all good. Yes, sir.
you will need to come to grips with your underlying conflicts. Mm-hmm.
Okay, and also when you were quote over here, you said that I don't believe in free will. You told me you have your free will, but free will is something I don't believe in. So, will is a force, but the force, you feel that you're making a choice, but the force comes from what's called a readiness potential in the back of your head that they can measure the readiness potential in the back of your head, something like so many milliseconds before you think you actually make a choice to do something, and so those come from the forces that go in your senses.
So it's very curious that you actually believe in some part of what you believe in. It resembles a bit to destiny. I asked you earlier as well. So you do believe in some kind of collective.
I'll show you here the what is it called here?
You know what the conflict is,
Mm-hmm.
Libb?
Yeah.
You know what the conflict is?
Mm-hmm. What's the
You are
conflict?
believing in those scriptures, and I am believing in Quran.
Yeah. Well, you believe in thermodynamics and the Quran, so you have conflict in your own mind, but you choose what you're picking and choosing in certain things.
I believe that the thought processes, the sayings in Quran, with whatever is there in thermodynamics. So thermodynamics is a derivative of the observations in the Quran.
Holy Quran. That's what I have said to Libb as well.
That's what I say about the commonalities.
Yes.